In video number 5, we talked about the question as to whether we are to forgive everybody all of the time, or perhaps maybe we aren't. And we talked about the difference in the scriptures about vertical forgiveness before God, forgiving others before God, and then forgiving others face to face with them. Or in other words, there's two dimensions to forgiveness in the scriptures. There's a vertical forgiveness in which we forgive another party, another person who sinned against me in the sight of God. And then there has to be a horizontal component to forgiveness as I consider forgiving the person who has sinned against me on a horizontal plane. What I'd like to do today is just give a PS, a part 2 to that particular teaching, because I think there needs to be just a little bit more qualification that goes along with video number 5. And this is video number 6 that we're talking about today in the series on forgiveness. And here's the 2 points that I'd like to point out as a PS to part 1. Do we forgive everybody all of the time? So here's number 1. I talked the fact that when people sin against us, that the vertical says, with the help of God, we ought to, before God, not the other person, forgive this person before God. And then secondly, as the person eventually comes to me and asks their forgiveness, well, then I want to extend forgiveness to them on a horizontal plane. Here's the point 1 that I want to make about that. Sometimes forgiving vertically this person who has sinned against me and forgiving the person, secondly, on a horizontal plane who has sinned against me, sometimes doing forgiveness on the vertical level and the horizontal level can be a very easy thing to do. And sometimes it can be a very difficult thing, a very hard thing to do, and something that takes a long time to do. And it all depends upon really the severity of the injury, I think. In video number 2 on forgiveness, we talked about the difference of when people sin against us. It can be like a paper cut, very slight injury, very quick recovery. Forgiveness or something as slight as a paper cut would be very easy if I can use this metaphor. But if somebody injures me to the degree like breaking a finger, well, that's a more severe injury. And that's going to take a longer time to heal, and forgiveness might be a little bit more difficult to do on a vertical level and on a horizontal level because the injury is a little bit more serious. Broken collarbone, 6 to 12 weeks, that's a more serious injury, much more debilitating. And forgiveness on a vertical level and on a horizontal level, something for an injury compared to that, relationally speaking, it's going to be more difficult in the healing process and recovery process, and the forgiveness extended is going to be more challenging. And then we talked about, again, in video number 2, that if you're hit by an 18-wheeler, well, that's going to be 1.5 years to 2.5 years of healing, recovery, physical therapy. And if you're in a relationship where you've been hit like by an 18-wheeler sort of experience, like marital sexual sin and unfaithfulness, that's like being hit by an 18-wheeler. Well, that injury is life-threatening. It's not like a paper cut. And one's ability to heal and recover and get back to normal is going to take a very, very long time. And if we translate that in terms of being able to forgive a wife who has sinned that way against her husband, well, that husband has been hit by an 18-wheeler, and personally, in his ability to heal and to forgive on a vertical level this wife, and to forgive the wife as she comes back to him and asks forgiveness, well, that too is going to be very difficult, very challenging, and it's going to take a long time to be able to do that. This is explained in more detail in video number 2 in this series on forgiveness. But early on in my video channels, we had a series of videos entitled Marital Unfaithfulness. And this forgiveness, how this forgiveness in marital unfaithfulness that's being similar to getting hit by an 18-wheeler is described in one of those videos that's titled Marital Unfaithfulness. And you'll want to go back and look at those series of videos which describe the difficulty of forgiving such a serious injury as marital unfaithfulness, and how difficult and how long it may be to forgive that person vertically, and even more so how challenging and how hard and how long it will take to forgive that person on a horizontal level. So you'll want to go back to those videos in this series on videos on forgiveness and the series titled Marital Unfaithfulness. The second thing is that I'd like to point out is our ability to forgive others is really on a paper cut level, but even more importantly, on a 18-wheeler injury in a marital relationship, for example, where a wife has committed sexual sin against her husband. The backdrop, the motivation, our ability to think clearly about how I can forgive that person, how I can practically do that. We really have to understand, first of all, how much God has forgiven us. And in turn, are we willing to forgive others? In this case, the wife, to the same degree in which I have been forgiven. That's how we forgive people who have sinned against us in such a serious way, understanding how serious our sins have been and how numerous and how great and severe they've been against God, and how we ought to forgive others who have sinned against us as well. And so with that in mind, you want to go back to this series of videos and look at video number 6. It might be number 6 or number 7. This is number 6. It'll be number 7. About how we can practically forgive those who have sinned against us in such a serious way. I hope that's helpful. Forgiveness in a vertical way, in a horizontal way, is taught in the Scriptures, but we are not to presume that comes easy, it's quick, and can be done very, very quickly, particularly when the injury is a very, very serious one. I hope that's helpful for you today.